Hey, this is Elizabeth with Brain Based Wellness. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my good friend, Scott Ferguson.
Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad at Scott Ferguson. And I'm bringing you episode 239 with my really good friend from Brain Based Wellness, Coach Elizabeth Christoph. This interview was pretty much life changing for me. If you listened about maybe listen all the way through, and she puts me through an exercise. It literally took me about 12 seconds that I implement every single day now that just helps me level up and get centered. I believe I'll probably be hiring her and her taking me on as a client due to just everything starts with the nervous system. And I'm not going to say too much more because I want Elizabeth, the pro, to explain everything to you. So seriously, sit back, relax, open up your brain, take some notes, because here comes my really good friend, Elizabeth Christoph from Brain Based Wellness. Let's level up. Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson, and you know I'm always feeding myself good nutrition, good stuff that goes into my mind, and we're going to get into the brain here with my really good friend Elizabeth Christoph from Brain Based Wellness. She's an expert in using applied neurology to move people out of pain, unwanted behavior, and stress response. Again, she's the founder of Brain Based Wellness, a revolutionary online platform that trains the nervous system and body to resolve old patterns, improve performance, and increase well-being. Elizabeth is a certified applied neurology practitioner. Wow, I said that without tripping on my tongue there. Who has been in the movement industry since 2007. She works with entrepreneurs, athletes, leaders, and creatives to improve resilience, manage stress, and regulate emotions through intentional science-based brain training. And Elizabeth, thank you for coming on. Please introduce yourself to the Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
My favorite color is green.
Green.
I think there's a real healing energy to green, and I love nature. I love being outside, and I love to just be surrounded by the trees and the grass, and that green reminds me of all of that.
It's growth, right?
Yes,
It's the
that's right.
growth.
Green is
And it's in your
growth
color
too.
wheel. And if you're watching, we have a beautiful Miss Elizabeth Christoph. She's a rock star. If you go to her website, which is brainbase-wellness.com, you can see a lot of what she's capable of doing, not only with her brain, but with her body. And she just rocks it. She wants to take you to the next level. So Elizabeth, can we get your backstory here a little bit about where the foundation is to where you were? And then in 2007, really kind of leveled up with the brain-based wellness?
Yeah, so I have been in the movement and wellness industry for a long time, and we were developing a teacher training program for some Pilates studios that I owned here in Austin, and I knew that I wanted brain training to be a part of that. I understood that I knew enough about movement science to know that, like, you don't have a tight hip flexor, you have a brain that is telling your hip flexor to maintain a certain amount of tension. You don't have limited range of motion. You have a brain and a nervous system that's limiting your range of motion. And until you resolve that, like, you can stretch all you want, you can foam roll all you want, but unless you address it at the level of your nervous system and your brain, that pattern's not really going to change. And so I started studying applied neurology, got certified, fell in love with it, went deep into my studies. And then in 2018, my life really kind of fell apart. I had to dissolve my business, my partnership shares in the business. My romantic partner at the time was diagnosed with a rare cancer around his heart, and we went into a long period of fighting that, and I was under a tremendous amount of financial stress, and I started to experience really severe outputs of my own nervous system, almost blacking out, binge eating, chronic pain, migraine. And I had all this information and knowledge about applied neurology, and I really understood that most of our life experience comes from what our nervous system is producing. And I started to look at myself with a lot of curiosity and began to use applied neurology, not just for athletic performance and pain management, but for behavior change, for resolving old trauma patterns, for moving out of these unwanted behaviors like binge eating, and healing all of the stress that I was going under at that time, and worked with a lot of different practitioners and healers. And through that work really came up with the platform that is Brain Based Wellness now.
Well, that's a magnificent story. So I love that you say that you don't have a tight hip flexor. It's your brain firing and telling it, which you can actually keep it tight. And since I've realized that that's happening, my jujitsu's leveled up, my yoga's leveled up, everything is great. But let me ask you something. You said you've been in the movement since '07. Were you not really in the brain-based movement then? Is that when 2018, when you were going through that, we'll just call it hell, your own personal hell?
Yeah, let's call it hell. I started studying applied neurology in 2014. And that was when we were developing the teacher training program. And then I really started to use it in all these different ways in 2018 when I went through that unique experience that we'll call hell, that taught me so much and really gave me a different perspective and understanding that we all do the best that we can at the level of our nervous system. And I began to understand how frustrating it can be when cognitively you're trying to level up your life or move past certain patterns or handle a certain amount of stress that, everyone faces high stress times in their life, and how frustrating it can be to feel like your body is working against you to keep getting shut down every time you try to level up or move through something. And that we have this miraculous system inside of us, our nervous system, and it's intelligent and it's responding to the stimulus that we put in, and it's always changing. And we have agency over what that stimulus is and in what direction our nervous system changes. And so I began to understand that we could train our nervous system to move out of those patterns, to handle more stress, and to not go into that protective mode of shutdown, of migraine, of pain, of exhaustion, and of unwanted behavior. Most of our behaviors are our brain's best way of getting the regulation that it needs, getting the stimulus that it needs to stay healthy. And it's actually our brain trying to protect us and keep us safe. So if we want to change those patterns and change those behaviors, we have to find new tools to give our brain the stimulus that it needs and to help it self-regulate, help our nervous system regulate.
And these tools, with maybe you can give us a little teaser, because I don't want to give too much. I want people to get a hold of you and really learn them. But you give us a teaser of those tools.
Yeah, so a lot of the work that I do, I train the various input systems. So I work on the visual system, the balance system inside of your inner ear, your vestibular system, your body mapping system that tells your brain where your body is in space, and then your interoceptive system, which is just the system that tells your brain what's going on inside of your body. And so all of these different systems give information to your brain. Your brain takes it all in, it integrates it, and then it makes a decision on how to act next. It makes an output. And if your brain is stressed out, if it's having a hard time making predictions and generating an output, then it will generate a protective output. It'll limit your range of motion. It'll make you weaker. It might use pain. Pain is a great behavior change tool of your brain to keep your world smaller. You take smaller steps, you work out with less intensity, you go out less. So if your brain doesn't feel safe at that very physiological level, it's going to generate protective outputs to try to get you to stay safe. If the input coming into your brain is clearer through those different systems, your eyes, your inner ear, your body mapping system, then your brain has an easier time doing its primary job, which is making predictions to keep you alive. And when your brain can do that better, it feels safer. And then it'll move you into a performance mode. It'll give you more range of motion through your joints. It'll make you stronger. You're more able to be connected, be present. And so by training these systems, which are all trainable, everything is a skill, every skill is trainable, then your brain is getting better information on a second by second basis. It can make better predictions and change the patterns and generate a new and more performance output.
Love that you brought that up, because I have a dear friend of mine. We dated for a while, but I remember I suffered from PTSD from military stuff, and I wasn't able to go into a restaurant. Like we parked and I couldn't go in. It was the weirdest thing. And I mean, I got up on stage probably earlier that day in front of 100 people and stuff, had no problem, but I just got locked in. And she just said one day, we need to retrain your brain. And it's funny that you said that with every skill is trainable.
Totally.
That we have. Okay.
I work with a lot of people with PTSD and myself, I have complex PTSD. I come from a lot of childhood trauma and, that it is what it is. Right. But I have learned ways to help my body regulate when it gets into those high stress states. And a lot of what PTSD is it's a real issue with your interoceptive system. So again, that's the system that tells your brain what's going on inside of your body. And so what is happening is that system is predicting too much threat where there isn't any. And so then it creates a physiological response inside of your body that is threat, right? Your heart is beating, you get sweaty, your shoulders rise up by your ears. You move into a protective state, a fight, a flee response when the threat is not really there, but there's something that triggers that, right? And so if when we start to feel those signals, we can give our nervous system and our brain new tools for regulation. And a lot of what I do for that is like vagus nerve stimulation. That's a really important component of your parasympathetic response, your calm and respond network. Then if you can start to feel those signals like, hey, I'm moving into threat response, my mouth is drying out, my shoulders are creeping up, my heart rate's going a little bit faster, let me stop and do a couple of things that change my internal state so that I'm no longer experiencing that threat response. You start to recalibrate, and then you create a new experience over and over again. And eventually longer time passes before you move into one of those episodes. You start to learn to re-regulate, and you create a different baseline for your body when you experience those same triggers.
Excellent. So what is your stance on if someone's like, there's a pill for that?
Well, I think there are different tools for different people, and whatever you need is whatever you need. And I don't want to be the person to tell someone whether or not medicine is right for them. But I think that there are also a lot of tools available to actually change at the root level of your nervous system so that you're not just kind of like blanketing out your nervous system, but you're actually changing it. You're changing the way that it responds to things. And so it's possible to retrain yourself. And for some people, when it's really severe, you may need some help, right? Calming the nervous system until you can get to that place where you're capable of making those changes. But it is possible to create that change over time with practice, with a daily practice of training your nervous system, just like you would train your muscles in the gym.
Right. Thank you for saying that too, because some people they need it, but even the people that I coach that kind of rely on it a little bit more, it's I kind of want to ease them off into something that brain-based wellness has. So when you're in a discovery period, you're kind of bringing them in. Is there any secret sauce, if you don't mind me sharing, that maybe helps you find their blind spot?
So a lot of what I do is I watch people walk. You can tell a lot about what's going on in someone's nervous system by the way they walk. It's called their gait cycle. And I look for different neurological patterns in there because everybody's nervous system is different and unique. And so I'm looking for the deficits in their unique nervous system so that we can heal those, resolve those. And then a lot of what I do on the membership site is I teach people to be the expert of their own nervous system. I teach you how to assess and reassess what is working well for your nervous system, because the really cool thing is that change at the level of the nervous system is instantaneous. And so it's whole body, it's systemic, and it happens right away. So you can always assess and reassess if something is moving your nervous system in a positive or negative direction. So you can do something really simple like turn your head side to side and see how far you can see out of the corner of your eye. Maybe rate the amount of tension in your neck, and maybe notice how much saliva do you have in your mouth. So if I have a lot of saliva, that means I'm moving into a rest and digest state, because that's part of our digestive process, right? If my mouth starts to dry up, that means I'm moving into fight and flight, into threat response, because I'm preparing for fighting or fleeing. So I'm moving out of a digestive state. So if when you do a drill, you do a neuro exercise, you test it first, test your range of motion, maybe test an exercise, then do a drill. And then reassess. I notice, do I have more range of motion? Do I have less tension in my neck? Do I get a little more saliva in my mouth? Is it easier to take a big, full, deep breath? And you can start to learn what drills are right for me. What exercises does my nervous system need? And then you can really apply that to everything in your life. Does this type of meditation make me feel better or worse? Does going for a walk make me feel better or worse? Because everybody has different
what you eat
for their
could feel
unique
better
nervous
or worse,
system.
right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you start to be the expert.
Someone comes in we'll stay in the discovery period here with you. Is there any good question that you wish they would ask you but never do?
I think one of the things that I work with a lot in people in the very beginning is understanding that this can be a very gradual minimum effective dose kind of thing. So people, I think, sometimes come in wanting to take on a little bit too much, and they're already in a very high stress state. And so one of the things I work with people on is understanding that it can be as little as like 3 minutes a day, 3 minutes of training your nervous system, 3 minutes of focusing on your breath, of giving your vagus nerve some stimulus, of training your eyes, and then let it be gradual and build on from there. Because whatever we do, we get better at. And if we're already coming in stressed out and then we add more stress onto that, we end up moving more into threat response,
Yes.
more into pain, and we
Try.
get better at that. And
Right.
so I wish that people would have a little more patience with themselves. It took a long time to get into this state of dysregulation, and it needs to be, you can't heal too slowly. It
Right.
really needs to be a gradual process that you build on little by little so that it's
Love it.
sustainable and it doesn't move you into pain or threat.
I love that. So you're actually caring. Imagine that. So, Elizabeth, have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
I have.
Okay. Let's get in that DeLorean with Marty McFly. Let's go back
Okay.
to the 20-year-old Elizabeth. What kind of knowledge nuggets would you be dropping on her to maybe help her shorten her learning curve, level up, and blast through?
I would tell her, you're doing the best that you can at the level of your nervous system. I lived so much of my life, really until like the past 5 years, driven through cycles of hypervigilance, just working and doing and trying to secure safety out of like doing all the time, and then shutting down in a state of hypoarousal, of freeze, where you experience brain fog and binge eating and migraine. And I would just cycle through those patterns, trying to find my safety, because I was very dysregulated. And that came from my childhood trauma. It came from learned behaviors that I experienced in my life, and then
Sure.
the stressful situations I put myself in. And I was so hard on myself about the things that I did, about the binge eating, about every time I would get shut down with a migraine. And really, it was my body protecting me from too
Right.
much stress for too long.
Wow.
And I would tell her that your body is your ally. It's doing the best that it can to keep you safe. Even this binge eating is helping to regulate your nervous system, to bring you out of that state of hypervigilance, out of that chronic stress state. And
Wow.
it's your body's best way of getting you to rest and be quiet for a minute. And
Wow.
so I would have more compassion for myself.
Love that. Thank you for saying that. And so Elizabeth, how do you want your dash remembered? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date, your life date and your death date there on your tombstone. How do you want your dash remembered?
I think as someone who is very curious and hopefully contributed to a conversation about changing the paradigm of not only our healthcare system but also our mental health system, to being something that's a lot more holistic and a lot more looking at the root causes rather than just addressing the symptoms.
Love it. Thank you. So what keeps you up at night?
I think about how to convey this message to more people. I would love to be able to especially get these tools and this knowledge out to children who are so resilient but could use more tools. If they just had the tools for self-regulation and a different way of looking at their behavior, it could save people so much pain and so much struggle. And I would love to spread in that direction.
Love that. Love it. So then what do people misunderstand the most about you?
I think that, that's a really good question. What do people misunderstand about me? I think sometimes people think that, I do drive pretty hard, and it looks like I'm very visible and always going and doing and being out in the world. And I think it's important for people to understand that like I am human too, and I do have trauma, and even me, there are periods where I get still shut down by my trauma responses, where I'll experience some chronic inflammation, or my eczema will come up, or I'll get really tired. Something will still trigger me, and that's okay. And I've learned to have compassion for myself about that and
Yes.
let myself rest, and that like we all experience that as we continue to push and grow
Love
and
that.
level up, and even me, and it's okay, it's just part of the process.
Love it. And have compassion. I love that, Elizabeth. So let's get back in that DeLorean, but this time with Doc Brown, and let's go 5 years into the future where there are no roads. Remember, if you remember that part of the movie. Anyways,
Yeah.
but where do you see brain-based wellness for you in 5 years?
Like I said, I would love to do programming for youth at some point.
Okay.
And I also um, I would love to just continue to be able to scale the business. I do two small group programs now, one for people with disordered eating, binge eating, since that is near and dear to my heart, and then one for entrepreneurs who are burnt out and want to continue to level up their life without being shut down by a nervous system that has been under too much stress for too long. So they experience migraine, pain, fatigue, all of that. And it's a 6-month program. We really take a deep dive into healing.
Love
And I
it.
would love to continue to grow those programs and reach more people.
Beautiful. Wow. And you will, especially with the squad out there listening. I know myself, I need some help with this as well. So let's take out our cell phones out of the equation. Let's take out our computer out of the equation, anything electronic. What are 3 things that Elizabeth can't live without?
Nature. I
Okay.
try to get outside every day and either hike or swim in fresh water. Or,
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a luxury that I have
No.
here in Austin, that I have that, but it's very important to me. Community. I feel a deep desire in my heart to stay connected with people who are walking this path and share our experiences. And movement is a huge part of my daily life. It's really important for brain health. It's also a lot of what I teach on the site is movement education and movement training.
Sure.
And it's been a huge part of my healing and my health.
Love it. Love it. So what is Elizabeth's definition of a life well lived?
A life well lived is a life of growth and curiosity and expansion. I feel like I don't ever want to stop learning. I don't ever want to settle for the day to day. I want to keep being able to expand. And I think in order for me to do that, I also have to keep healing. So going back and healing to move forward and expand.
Love it.
And that's my dream life.
Knowing that step back is actually for progress sometimes. And I
That's
love
right.
that. I do that
That's
as
right.
well. And hey, time to shine today. Podcast Varsity Squad. We are back with my brain-based wellness rock star, Elizabeth Kristoff. And Elizabeth, we have a leveling up lightning round. You and I could literally talk for an hour in each one of these questions, okay? But you have 5 seconds with no explanations. You ready?
Okay.
All right,
Ready.
Here we go. What is the best leveling up advice Elizabeth's ever received?
Stay curious.
Yes. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
A morning practice of regulating my nervous system.
Love it. Who's had the most profound impact on your life?
My mother.
Love it. Love it. So other than brainbase-wellness.com, and of course, timetoshinetoday.com, my shameless plug, what website do you like to go to level up?
I go to zhealtheducation.com a lot. That's my applied neurology training person and education company. That's where I go.
Good. Beautiful. You see me walking down the street, you're like, Fergie looks like he's in his doldrums a little bit. Is there a book you might be handing me to help me level up?
Currently, I'm reading Eastern Body, Western Mind, and I'm getting a lot out of that.
How is that? I'm breaking my rule.
Very
here.
Interesting.
Good.
Yeah, it's very.
I'm going to look into that. Donnie, put that in the show notes, bro. Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. So, what is your most commonly used emoji?
Probably the little brain.
It makes sense. All right. So, chess or checkers?
Chess.
All right. I figured you'd say chess, the brain base. I'm a checkers guy. What's your favorite charity organization that you like to give your time or money to?
Safe.
What's that?
It's an organization for battered women and abused children, and
Oh,
I like to
thank you.
contribute to that.
Thank you. Thank you. Last question. You can elaborate on this one, but what's the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Well, I grew up in the 90s, so I'm gonna have to
Okay,
go
go
with
to the
90s.
90s.
I'm a 90s
Oh,
kid.
love it. Love, love, love it. So how can we find you?
Brainbase-wellness.com is the best place to find me. And I actually have a free video series on there
You
that'll
do.
teach you 5 really high payoff neuro drills that have worked for a lot of my clients. So you can start establishing that morning practice of regulating your nervous system and just see how it feels in your body. And if you go there, you sign up, it's totally free, takes 5 minutes a day, and really helps to resolve stress and make behavior change.
Love it. And tell us about your membership site and also your private.
Yeah. So the membership site, I get on there live daily, and we do nervous system training. We do somatic practices, which is moving stress and emotions through the body. And we do intelligent movement designed to really help overcome pain, really improve performance. And so we're on there every single day, and it's live, and then it goes on to on demand. So you can do it either way.
Wow.
But I'm always around to ask questions too. And then I do the small group neuro coaching, which is a really tight container held space for people to dig deep into their subconscious mind. And we're rewiring the nervous system. We're also rewriting subconscious narratives, doing a lot of somatic practices and EFT. And it's a very transformative program.
Wow.
Big work.
Wow. That's awesome. That can all be found on brainbase-wellness.com.
Yep.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So squad, get over there and take a look at it. And please do me a favor and leave us with one last knowledge nugget you want us to take with us, internalize, and take action.
Do you want to try a drill?
We have a few minutes, so we can do that.
Okay, we'll do it super fast. A very easy drill to do to help you upregulate your vagus nerve, which is that important cranial nerve, is just to move your tongue. So sit up nice and tall, relax your shoulders, lengthen your spine, and then do an assessment, maybe test the range of motion of your neck. And then we're going to take our tongue over our teeth, and we're going to make big circles, keeping the mouth closed. And try to go a little bit further back each time. Perfect. Just relaxing into it. Maybe 5 circles in one direction, 5 circles in the other direction. And then when you're done with that, take a breath in, take a nice long, slow exhale, really letting the drill settle into the body, and then reassess and notice how you feel. Notice if you feel more or less tension in your neck, maybe a little more present. And we just gave our vagus nerve a little bit of stimulus, just that simple.
That's amazing. I felt it. It was just like a relaxation. That is
yes, exactly.
In squad, we literally had a free masterclass from my really good friend Elizabeth Kristoff from Brain Based Wellness. She, the brain, it starts in the brain, and it's like if you have a tight hip or a tight calf or something's out of alignment, it really is starting with your brain. And she said that there's various impacts from your visual, your inner ear, your body mapping, your interoceptive. I'm not even going to try to explain what those are. Go to her website and check that out. She will also tell you that every skill that we have is trainable. Everything can go back to the brain. We just did a 5-second exercise or a 10-second exercise that really just released the vagus nerve and just changed my whole perspective here while we're talking. She can tell, she's such an expert. She can tell a lot about your nervous system just by the way you walk, the way you hold yourself. And again, I would love to make a warm introduction to Elizabeth, to you on the spot or whenever that you're ready. She wants you to be the expert of your own nervous system. And she will tell you that if you're going to make changes, start small or gradual. And like we say here at Time to Shine today, inch by inch, it's a cinch. By the yard, it's hard. So do the little steps. Like we're always saying, and finally I have somebody to back me up here and tell me that. It was just awesome. She'll tell you, have compassion for yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself because it's taxing your nervous system. And to remember, your body is your ally. She's going to be remembered as someone that's very curious, yet humble, and contributed big time to mental hygiene. And that is huge with me, with the work that I do with the troops returning to stateside or get back into civilian life. And so that resonated big time with me, that she's really into helping you with mental hygiene. And she wants you to always grow and always work to internalize the good and expound it out to others. And Elizabeth, thank you for coming on. You level up your health, you level up your wealth. Like I said, you're humble, yet you're hungry. So blessed to have you. Cannot wait to collaborate with you. I love your guts so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such an honor.
You bet. Talk soon.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast. Proudly brought to you by Sutter & Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.